Well, hey, glad you guys all got on tonight and have Claudia here with me. She is the loan officer at the Newcastle branch, but you might recognize her because she's worked at all the offices, right?
Correct.
Yes. And today she's celebrating her 13th year with PCCU. She started on November 17th of 2008. So what do you like best about working at PCCU?
I enjoy helping the members and being a loan officer. I can show them, they may come in and want one thing, but we can sit and talk, and then there may be some other ways to still get the same thing that they want.
Okay. Because she's been around for a long time. Lots of people know her, but they probably didn't know that she also knits, and she's pretty good at it. How long have you been knitting?
Oh, I was in college when I first started, so it was back in the dinosaur age.
You went to Purdue though, right?
I did.
Yay.
I did. I went to Purdue.
And so you knit a lot of what right now?
I just like to knit because it gives me something to do and keeps me busy and keeps my hands busy. So I don't do anything that is real intricate. I make easy scarves and easy Afghans.
Okay, and that's what you're going to show us today, is how to make a scarf.
Correct.
Get one started. And you do this without knowing maybe who you're going to give scarves to. I've heard you donate a lot of scarves.
I do.
Yeah.
You can make them, of course, any length that you want. And, you know, if you know a child that you're going to give it to, you just have to size it down.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you want one real big and fluffy, you make it bigger.
Yeah. So you have been doing this and giving these away and also making them as gifts. And we thought this was a really good idea to like flex your skills with our membership and share your skill of knitting, and perhaps someone else would want to knit a scarf for a gift this Christmas. So I don't know. Let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, just a couple different things that I wanted to go over first. I always like to use the short knitting needles because they're easier to handle. Knitting needles come in two different sizes, what I call short and long. And the long ones are probably about, what's that, 15 inches maybe?
Maybe, yeah.
And since you're not using a lot of the space, that's why I like to use the smaller needles. Now,
so you're using a 13-inch needle, right?
That's right. This one and these are good for scarves because they knit quick and it makes a big stitch. So you finish your whatever you're doing, you can finish it quicker.
Good job.
I always like to use two different types or two different skeins of yarn. You can use the same color, or you can just mix and match, and it depends. For example, this yarn is just a solid, oops, a solid peach. And then the second yarn that I chose was like a flex pattern.
It's very pretty.
And it will, well, we'll see what it looks like when we start knitting. Normally for an adult, you'll want to start out with any place between 15 and 17 stitches on your needle. First of all, you just tie a knot. And this is called casting on. And this is what you're going to do to make your stitches. You wrap the yarn in between the needles. You bring the tip of the needle through so it makes a loop. And then you just put it back onto the same needle. So we'll do that to get started. And then, like I said, you can always, you just keep adding on. And for an adult, I will put on between 15 and 17 of these stitches. Then once you get those done, to do the actual knitting, we'll grab another pile here. This is what the pattern looks like. It's called a seed stitch. And to do this stitch, you always want to have an uneven number. That's why I either do 15 or 17 stitches to start out with. Now, to make this, the first stitch that you're going to make is called a knit stitch. You'll insert your needle, do just like you were in casting on, only you slide it onto your free needle. Now, the next stitch that you're going to use is called a purl. Those are the two basic stitches when you knit. And on the purl stitch, you go in from the top. You again slide it around the needle. Take it underneath and over onto the other, the free needle. And then pull your yarn around. Now, I know I had told Kim that if you're just beginning, this might be a little too much to start out at first. So what you can do is just knit. So we'll cast on a few stitches here. And you're going to have to use your imagination. Or we'll say this is for a dog. And all we're going to do is just knit back and forth and back and forth. So you just take it over. It's just like when you cast on your stitches, only you slip it onto your free needle.
You are so good at this.
Many, many, many miles of yarn I have touched in the last who knows how many years. Okay, so we just knitted our first row. Now we're just going to turn it over. And we're going to knit another row. It's always a good idea to hold on to the end so it doesn't pull apart until you get a few rows, and then it's pretty set. Best thing to do is to just, it seems awkward if you've never knitted before, to try and hold the needles. And then another thing that you want to do is, and you'll learn as you go along, you want to try and keep how taut you pull your yarn so it stays consistent. And we'll knit one more row so you can begin to see what the pattern's going to look like. Oops, sorry, I was going to do the purl. I'm so used to doing that. And if you notice, as soon as I pull my thread or put my knit over onto the other needle, I'll just pull it a little, not yank it tight, but just make it so it's not, you don't want to leave it like that.
Yeah.
Because that'll create too much slack and then you won't have a nice pattern.
Gotcha.
But that's what just knitting will look like. So if you just do that, and that's a good scarf also.
And Claudia told me that she's done this so long that she can make a scarf for an adult in about 6 hours.
6 to 8 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's usually making, I always make the scarves any place between 4.5, 5 feet. That way they wrap around real well. Keep you warm. So that's the knitting and the purling. And then the other thing that you want to do when you finish your scarf, you have to have a way to get it actually off the scarf or off the needle.
Off the needle. Okay.
Off the scarf. Yeah, off the scarf. So we'll go back to this one. And let me finish out. Let me fix this mistake I just made. Okay. And as you see me fumble through this, you'll think, how can she knit that in 6 hours? But I'll show you. The way I normally knit is like this.
Yeah.
And it just, you have
your rhythm, right?
Yeah, you have your rhythm and your needles aren't flopping around all over the place. And, in my case, they have my fat little belly to hold on to.
Oh, you're fun. And she just goes to town, and she says she doesn't even look.
Yeah.
She watches TV and does this. So that is such a talent. I think it would take me 6 months to make a scarf.
Okay, now we're going to pretend that this is 5 feet long.
Okay.
And we've got it to the length that we want it to be. So now we have to do what is called cast off. And that's just finishing up the product. Okay, you knit the first stitch. Now the second stitch, you also knit, but here's where it gets tricky. You go back to your first stitch and you slip it over your second stitch. So that gets rid of it. Okay, so we're gonna knit another stitch. We're gonna go back to the first stitch and just loop it over the second stitch. So see how it's finishing off the scarf?
Right. Is that the easiest way to do this? Because some of them have fringe. Is that harder to
No,
do?
I'll show you how we can put fringe on it too.
Okay.
But first you have to get it finished off. And oh, if you get into this and you can't figure it out, you can always email me at cforest@pccu.com. Ask me your questions and we'll see if we can't teach you how to knit.
And we are going to upload this, so at least you can watch it on repeat until you catch on if you've never knitted before.
Okay, now you get down to where you have just one stitch left. Excuse me. Oops, and I forgot to bring my scissors over. Hang on just a minute. Okay, so now you can just pull your yarn through and make a big old loop. You want to cut your yarn free. Good scissors. And then all you do is you take the loose end, wrap it through, and just pull it tight.
Okay.
Okay.
Looks
so
good.
Then you've got this nice scarf. Now on a lot of mine, since I don't know who they go to, I don't know if it's going to a guy or a girl, I don't put fringe on it. I just leave it like this, and then when you put it on, it just all wraps up real nice and tight. What you can do with the ends is I always tie one more knot, pull it as tight as you can get it, and then just take your scissors and clip it as close as you can to the knot. I'm not going to do it with those scissors because it probably wouldn't cut it. But, okay, so now if you want to put fringe on it, all you do is say if you want your fringe to be that long.
Mhm.
You just double it over. Cut it. And then what I do is I'll just take this and use it and just cut a bunch of strips.
Okay. Yeah, those are like not gonna.
Those aren't going to do very well.
Maybe cut some paper, but
Maybe. And your fringe, you can make as many or as few as you want. And all I do is I go like every other. I don't put it in every loop on the end because that gets to be pretty bulky.
Mhm.
And normally what I do is I do it with a crochet hook, but I forgot to bring that.
Oh, okay.
But all you do is you just put the yarn through the loop.
Mhm.
Boy, these old fingers just don't want to work anymore.
It would be a lot easier with the hook.
Yes, much easier.
There she goes.
Okay, so we cheated a little bit. And then all I do is I just tie a knot in it.
Mhm. And you do that on every other
I just
loop.
I normally do it every other loop.
Mhm.
That way it gives a little fringe to it,
Yeah.
and not a lot.
Super cute.
So there you go. Knitting 101 by Claudia.
Yay, Claudia. You did a great job, and we appreciate you, everything that you do. And
Thank you very much.
just a joy to work with. And we did have someone join us, I think. I don't know if they have any questions. I'll open it up if they do. Maybe you can share if you've ever knitted before. If you're a novice like me. Not sure, but I think Suzanne is on here, so we will take note. Claudia is available to help us whenever we want help with this, and she's gonna have to help me a lot, I think, because I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna attempt it to make a scarf, and I will post pictures.
All right.
You'll be the first one to see it if I get it done in this
Good.
century.